Doppelgangers are an apparition or double of a living person. The following two stories are about two terrifying events about people who witnessed doppelgangers that left them traumatised. Adrian Brown, Bournemouth, England. Adrian, from Winton in Bournemouth in southern England, was a security advisor, and in February 1991 at approximately 11:15 p.m. he was driving his work van on what was a regular patrol to a gravel extraction pit near Wareham in Dorset. The logo on the van he was driving was very distinctive, and there were only two such vans with that logo. Adrian was driving one of the vans with the logo, and the other van was not on the road as it was being serviced, so it was definitely not on the road. He was running 20 minutes late as he approached the roundabout at Holton Heath between Wareham and Litchett Minster. As Adrian approached the roundabout, another vehicle was coming from the opposite direction, and as the van grew closer, he could clearly see that it was the same vehicle as the one he was driving, as it had the exact same black lettering on the side. Then as the vehicle was directly in his sights, he was totally shocked to see that the driver of the vehicle was himself. There was no doubt that he was looking at his double, because the whole area was lit up by streetlights, and he had a clear view of himself, and it was like looking in a mirror, as he even had the same moustache. As the van was passing, he had a good 5 or 6 second glance, and the other him was looking back, but there was no hint of recognition. Adrian was now in a state of shock and was totally perplexed and had needed a few minutes to come to terms with what he'd just seen. He then became frightened and had goosebumps, while the hair on the back of his neck stood on end. Adrian Brown was adamant that the man he saw in the van was not just somebody who happened to look like him, he was definitely looking at himself. In hindsight, he felt that he should have done a quick U-turn and driven after the van, but possibly due to his state of mind, he was in no condition to follow him. The following 4 or 5 days, he felt fear and had disturbing dreams, and it would be many weeks until he would come to terms with what he had encountered. Although he would ask himself many questions as to how it could have happened, he knew he was not suffering from fatigue at the time, and the nature of his work meant that he had to be alert and on the ball. At the time of the incident, he was wide awake, as he was just starting his night shift. After his experience, he rang his company to ensure that the other van was still off the road, which it was. Adrian also said that because he was running 20 minutes late, if he had been on time, the van coming in the opposite direction would have been the normal time it would have been returning from the job. Had he somehow been involved in some sort of time glitch? If that is the case, did he somehow project a mental image of himself coming back? And did his other self actually see him, or would he have been invisible to his other self? 5 years later, he was interviewed about the incident and claims that it no longer bothered him. However, he still had a very clear image, as if it had happened yesterday. The Perkins Family, Dorset, England. The following terrifying event happened in Broadston, Dorset, southwest England, 2 weeks before Christmas in December 1994. The names had been changed as the couple wished to remain anonymous, even 15 years after their frightening story. The family was John and Patricia Perkins, and their daughters Melanie, 14, Rebecca, 13, and Lucy, who was 12. At the time, the mother and father, along with Lucy and Melanie, were returning home after doing some Christmas shopping. As they approached the house, they were surprised to see their daughter Rebecca standing outside in the freezing weather with her friend Heather. Both Rebecca and Heather were shocked to see them, and Rebecca just stared at both Melanie and Lucy and said, "How can you two be here with Mum and Dad? We've just seen you upstairs in the house," and had been terrified by what had recently happened in the house. The incident was so frightening that they chose to stand outside in the cold weather until the parents got home. They did not want to go back inside alone. Rebecca then went on to describe the incident when she and her friend Heather were opening the front door and could hear the voices of her sisters Melanie and Lucy coming from an upstairs bedroom. They then walked up the stairs towards the bedroom where the voices were now louder and the bedroom door was closed. As they approached the door, the voices were somewhat different. They appeared to sound mechanical and robotic, almost like Daleks from the Doctor Who sci-fi series. However, they could still make out what they were saying, and they were talking about Christmas and figured they were wrapping up presents. Rebecca and Heather were so unnerved at what they could hear and the strange sound they were making that they quickly ran down the stairs and out of the house, rather than open the bedroom door and confront whatever was making the strange voices. However, a short time later they felt they were being silly and they decided to pluck up the courage and go back into the house. As they walked into the house, they looked up the stairs and saw a figure at the top of the stairs peering down at them. Rebecca said that the figure was clearly Lucy, who said absolutely nothing, but just stared at them with an intense look which creeped them out so much that they ran outside again. That is why when Lucy and Melanie stepped out of the car, Rebecca and Heather were totally shocked to see them. How could they be in two places at one time? The mother did not doubt what her daughter and friend had heard and seen, and it appears the two daughters that were upstairs were their doubles or doppelgangers. But what was not answered was, why did the girls speak in such strange voices? And why was Lucy standing at the top of the stairs giving her sister an intense deathly stare?